Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is the Upper Tier Podcast. It's Thursday. It's myself and Dazzler on your screens. How are we doing, Dazzler? How's things?
All good in the hood, brother Bear. How are you? Good week.
Yeah, not too bad at all. Yeah, busy, busy, busy as always. But we couldn't have picked a better day to chat about the biggest party of the summer, could we? It's
Absolutely.
absolutely sweltering.
It's very warm out there, as you can see. Dazzler's not long off the tennis court. We went late into the evening, and yeah, just got home. But it was really heavy the last couple of hours. I was like, man, this is a tough job in the heat, man. Don't need this on my side.
Absolutely. So, as you know, tonight we'll be taking a break from football, but if there is football questions, I'm sure we'll answer them. We do like a good segue every so often.
We do.
Um, I think, as far as I know, tomorrow night I'm on Henry's channel. We're going to be talking about Liverpool's pre-season. Henry's there in the comments. We'll bring in the comments now in a few minutes. But before we begin, Darren, we have to talk about another legend of the music scene that we lost. One Sinead O'Connor passed away.
Yeah.
56 years of age, no age at all. We know she had her battles with mental illness and all sorts of stuff. We know that she pushed a certain narrative and she outed a lot of things which kind of vilified her from the press and various things like that. But she never shirked her responsibility for what she believed, right or wrong. And a lot of what she put out there that was kind of outlandish at the time. A lot of it became true over time and stuff like that. And she was seen as a girl who actually, you know, sold those truths. But very sad she lost her son as well, tragically as well. And we don't know the circumstances of her own death and stuff like that. A lot of surmising at the moment, but very
Yeah.
sad. Give us your thoughts.
Yeah, obviously very similar to yours. Really, really sad. Very poignant moment, I suppose she was a huge advocate back in the early 90s for what was going on in this country and stuff like that. And you'd almost describe her as a whistleblower, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
In how she put things out there and how she was attacked and vilified because of it. But a very brave lady, very, very talented lady. But again, somebody who really, really struggled with their demons. And I think that the best thing for Sinead right now is she's at peace. And I think I certainly would take comfort in the fact that she's back with her son because you know we're fathers, and I couldn't even put myself in those shoes to imagine what it's like to have to bury your child and stuff like that. So very, very difficult. A phenomenal talent, and should be sorely missed.
yeah. I think the one thing we can say that the peace she couldn't find in life, she will certainly find in death. And
Absolutely.
it's very, very sad. And it's just so many of these musicians and stuff like that, they just fall away, and the rates of mental health and suicide and all sorts of stuff. Now, we don't know what's happened to Sinead, of course, and it's quite frankly, it's none of our business, only that we've lost a very, very talented woman. A fantastic, what a voice. I mean, when she broke onto the scene, and she was so different in the way she looked and everything else and all that kind of stuff. And went through life, and came across a lot of issues, was very vocal in a lot of issues. A lot of it came true. The Catholic Church and all the different things she spoke about, and the abuse, the child abuse, and the paedophilia, and everything that came out eventually. Um, but yeah, very, very, very sad and very, very shocking. Just another tough one, and especially after losing Christy from Aslan as well. A lot of these legends that we grew up on, and we don't use that word lightly. I mean, again, I watched.
No.
If you want to see the power of the girl, maybe people in the chat don't realize much about Sinead O'Connor. But if you want to realize the power of that girl, go and look at McGregor's entrance when he fought Chad Mendes and he brought her in to sing the Foggy Dew for his entrance. And a lot of people would say that Chad Mendes was beaten that night before he even got to the octagon from that entrance. Such a powerful voice. And it was unbelievable. And even McGregor's postings about her passing and all said a lot and stuff like that and all. So unfortunately, R.I.P. Sinead O'Connor. We'll dedicate the show tonight to yourself. And yeah, another huge musical influence for so many people now gone. unfortunately under tragic circumstances, I would imagine. Right, let's get on with the show. So to bring it back, we are here to preview the biggest show, the biggest party of the summer, as they call it. Originally one of the big four, but now the whole concept of the big four is changing with these premium live events, because there doesn't be such thing as a big four anymore.
Nah, we've still got. Listen, I was, where I was last weekend. I was at the British Open. It's one of the four majors. I'll be going to the US Open tennis this year. Again, it's one of the slams, and this is one of the big four. SummerSlam, Survivor Series, the Royal Rumble, and WrestleMania have always been the biggest pay-per-views of the year, and this card is shaping up to be no different. This is a huge card for WWE, and a massive statement just before AEW take their bow at Wembley. And I've got to be honest, I think this is a warning shot from WWE. I think they're firing it across the bows at AEW just to remind them, you're still the minor leagues over there, lads. You want to see how it's done properly? Look across here and watch how we do things. This is the major leagues, and we are the top and the cream of the crop.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's coming to you from Ford Field,
yes.
Detroit, the Motor City, the WrestleMania 23.
Yes.
Was there.
What does it bring back to you, the John Cena entrance?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was
awesome.
Unbelievable. I actually was offered a package from a customer for WrestleMania 23, a platinum package for free. Shout out to Natasha.
Okay.
And I couldn't go. So I gave it away. I sent it on to Joe. You know Joe, who runs OTT, Joe Cabral.
I sure do. Yeah.
I sent it on to Joe, and Joe went. He had an absolute blast, and you can see him actually. He was camera aside, and you can see him all through it. He's standing there enjoying it. But Ford Field, amazing. Detroit as well, huge sporting city there, especially with boxing.
Huge.
And it's the Motor City. I'd imagine a raucous fan base as well.
Great fans.
Huge.
Great fans. Yeah. It's going to be awesome on Saturday week. Really is. Really looking forward to it. And when you see the card, and when you see how stacked that card is, I'm just salivating at the mouth thinking about it. It's a really, really strong card.
Yeah, and it's not usually expensive either. I think this ticket's starting at $25. We actually went to a SummerSlam back in 2007. Was in the Rutherford Arena in New Jersey, where the MetLife was.
Yes.
We probably couldn't have picked the worst SummerSlam, to be honest, to go to, but we went to it anyway. And it was interesting, actually, because we were in New York, so it was mainly a trip to New York, but SummerSlam was kind of the bolt-on, if you like.
Yes.
And I actually got the opportunity to go to a fire chief. I think it was the fire chief's funeral, believe it or not, in that special cathedral. I think it's St. Patrick's Cathedral off Times Square, a couple of blocks off Times Square, or whatever it is.
Visited in November when I was there. Beautiful building, beautiful.
And I think it was the burial of a fire chief from 9/11, where they had found the remains. This was 2007. But you want to see this funeral, Darren. I've never seen. They lay on every different type of fire truck from every different era. It's an absolute procession. The coffin is ginormous, and it's up on top of one of the huge units, and they drove it right. I think it runs from Fifth Avenue, I think it is, all the way up, and it filled the whole avenue. You want to see this? And I was saying it to the lads. I seen it was advertised on the TV that it was going to happen, and the lads stayed in bed. Of course, they were probably hungover from the night before. We were in the Hard Rock Cafe or something, and we were on the cheap cocktails, as they say, with the meal. And I got up and I made a point of going to it, and I've never experienced anything like it. It was just, you could hear a pin drop. There was thousands upon thousands of people lining in the streets, and up came this procession. I've never seen anything like it. And I know, if anyone knows New York, I think it's St. Patrick's Cathedral. The front of that is just phenomenal as it is.
Arts and stuff. I got a picture at it when we were there in November and stuff like that.
It's unreal.
It's famous, and everybody that walks past it stops to take their picture on the steps of it. And stuff like that. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. I can only imagine what it was like, because when you're a veteran over there in the States, and when you've given your time and your life to helping people, they really know how to respect people like that. Especially
with that backdrop, anyway. Yeah, SummerSlam '07. Yeah, it wasn't great. It was if you remember Triple H and Booker T and all that, and we had Ray the Silver Surfer with Chavo, and yeah, it was pretty bad, all right, as the SummerSlam goes. But look, it was my claim to fame.
Still good memories. Still good memories.
Yeah,
you know,
still good memories, of course. Yeah,
absolutely.
Speaking of memories, our friend JR, who comes on the trips with us, as you well know, sent me in one of his memories. I hooked him up one time with a package. A guy was selling off a package, Emma Crotty, who people would know in the chat, who comes in shopping, stuff like that, and goes to the shows. He was selling off a platinum package, I think it was, for SummerSlam. And JR bought the package, and JR went. And this will tell you how good JR's experience of it was.
Oh, he sent it to me. He sent it to me the other night. It's awesome.
Is that as good a picture as you'll ever get at a wrestling show?
JR's pretty good at picking these, because when I was at War Games in the TD Garden in Boston, JR's on pretty much all of the camera shots. Had a phenomenal seat that night as well. I know he took his chair home with him and stuff like that. It was one of those seats, and had some phenomenal pictures and videos and stuff like that. So yeah, JR is a big fan. He goes to a lot of shows, and he's very, very passionate about the product and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, he sent me the picture today. I've seen it a few times now. He obviously sent it to me when it happened and stuff like that.
Yes.
But I thought it, like, you know, if you ever want a picture that, you know, captures a fan going to SummerSlam and stuff like that, it's absolutely awesome.
It's on a par with my friend Keane. So Keane's a huge wrestling fan, Keane Bushell, and Keane's sign is the one that's captured in the first Rock versus Cena main event, when the two boys come into the ring and go face to face with each other. There's a sign in the background which reads Keno 316. And that's Keane's sign. And it's like, it's famous because every time you see the picture, you can read Keane's sign. It's there. Yeah. Now he's been offered a few pounds for this sign. But it's not leaving the building just yet.
Is it JSA'd?
It's I don't know if it's JSA'd, but like, he could certainly put a serious package together here, because he's actually met The Rock. I think I told you about this. Kane was in he was in Miami, and he was on South Beach, and himself and his girlfriend Sandra were going for a walk down South Beach, and he said there was like a caravan or a trailer just parked on the beach. And there was two kind of heavies on it, and they were stood a little bit from the trailer so that nobody could approach it and stuff like that. And he says, "Hey lads, who's in the trailer?" And they were like, "Oh, nobody." And he was like, "Oh, there has to be someone in there. Like, you guys aren't standing here." So it went on for a couple of minutes, and Kane's a huge wrestling fan, huge MMA fan and stuff like that. And he said the next minute, the door of the trailer opened, and it was The Rock. And he was filming Ballers in the Miami area, and came over and took a picture with him and got an autograph and stuff. So we got The Rock's autograph. He's got Cena's autograph. He's got this sign. I mean, if you put that in some sort of a shadow box, and you attach the two JSA'd signatures and autographs, what are you talking there?
Yeah, it'd be big bucks, but I don't know. Would you want to get rid of a memory like that? I don't know. I want to get rid of it.
I don't know.
That's one you keep with you forever, isn't it? Unless you're losing your gaff.
Yeah, Kane won't be in any. That won't be happening to Kane.
Right, let's take some comments before we get into the card. Sean's in. Big up, Sean. How do, fellas? How can this be the biggest summer party with all this rain I've been getting? Yeah, that's true. Henry's in. Evening.
Very true.
Daz is in. Big up, Niall and Dazzler. What's the crack? All good.
Hey, Daz.
Big up, Henry.
Hey, Henry.
Hope you're well today. I'm good, Daz. And then Daz is in, and he's asking, Dazzler, I asked Niall this. What's your favourite SummerSlam of all time?
I
was like you now. I was a bit stunted by it now, because there's a good few of them that have been pretty cool.
That's a tough one. But I'm gonna take you a good way back. And I'm gonna take you to Wembley, 1992. The Legion of Doom versus Money Inc. The Legion of Doom coming down with Paul Ellery and Rocco on the Harleys, Savage and Warrior. You know,
we spoke about it. That was the call on Sunday night. Sunday night we did a wrestling update show, and Daz asked me on that show, and we were talking about SummerSlam '92 and Animal burning his leg on the exhaust because they were parked the wrong way and everything.
That's right. And obviously Davey Boy and Brett in the main event and stuff like that, the co-main event. Just awesome. That for me. Yeah. And I think for us, like the one thing that I struggle with when I think back to WrestleMania 92 was it was so close. And at that stage, like I'm 8 years of age and I'm not thinking it's going to be 25, a quarter of a century before they bring a pay-per-view back to, you know, to London, to Cardiff for Clash of the Castle and stuff like that. So you never think we won't get an opportunity like that again. And it's the one regret I have. Like if we go back to 1992, I'm doing everything I can to get my dad to bring me to that. You know, to be at that and to see Macho Man and Warrior and stuff like that would be unbelievable to have a memory like that. Gotta say.
And the funny thing about 92 is you would have thought that would have got the ball rolling to bring over more shows.
When you know, because it went so well. It was so well received. I mean, Wembley was packed to the rafters. It was an unbelievable pay-per-view. Like, and everything went down so well. But, you know, obviously they went a different direction with things and stuff. But absolutely, it was a phenomenal show.
Yeah, Sean is in. I also mentioned one the other night, Dazzler, that I really enjoyed because it was just the foolery of it and stuff like that was 05, wasn't it? Hogan and Michaels. Remember the build-up to it and the Larry King vignettes and all this good stuff?
Yeah.
And then Michael overselling everything for Hogan, just making an absolute show of him and stuff like that.
He's popping up off leg drops and everything, just like...
He was getting kicked to the midsection. He was nearly going over the top rope out to the floor and everything.
Yeah, but listen, other than, you know, we're looking at, you know, Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels, Dolph Ziggler, probably three of the best sellers ever. Because of the overemphasis on what they did and stuff like that. You know, Flair, when he goes and he walks out and he does the face plant and everything, and or he does the fighting that he's not there, just unreal. What a hero! What a hero!
I remember actually saying there was a mini kind of documentary, I think, on WWE Network, and Sean and Hunter were talking about that match, and they were kind of slagging Hogan about the overselling that Sean did, because I don't think Hogan realised at the time that Sean was just taking the total mickey out of the match.
Yeah.
Hogan, and it was only afterwards when they went back and looked at it. It was just they were looking at the match and they were talking through it and stuff like that. And you know, it was like a DX moment where they were talking about Sean's overselling of everything. Like literally everything Hogan did, he oversold a million times more than it should have been. But really, really funny. Sean's in SummerSlam 2002. There you go. Interesting. Hi, Sean.
2002. Somebody of a soft spot for 2017. The first I stayed up for in 2018. Good man, Sean.
Yeah, absolutely. Big up, Dazzler.
Hey, Henry.
How are you, Henry, fella? How's it going? It's good, thank you. And got 161 subs a month. Brilliant, Henry. Growing all the time.
Flying, Henry.
He's lashing out the content as well. It's quality at the moment. And Daz, Henry, are you doing the women's watch along tomorrow? Interesting. If you are, Henry, if you have a link, drop it into the chat. Not a problem at all. Right. Let's talk about this card. Very, very interesting. The final touches of it were supposed put together over the last couple of days. I don't think there's much around for anymore else. I don't think too much is going to come out of Friday. But I don't think there's a huge amount. Maybe... I don't think they don't even do shows really on the pre-shows and kickoffs anymore. Sure, they don't.
No, not usually. Is the United States title going up on SmackDown or is it going onto the card?
I think it's staying on SmackDown. I don't think it's going onto the card.
Something was. I know we've obviously got Ray versus Andre Escobar. They were the two winners of the challenges. Santos Escobar. Santos Escobar won the first match.
Okay.
And Ray won the second when it looked like LA Knight was going to win it. Now, we were obviously being sold the red herring of LA Knight's going to get his time and stuff like that.
We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about that a little bit later. Don't worry.
And didn't get his moment in the sun. And Ray nipped in. And all of a sudden, you're like, we're getting two of the leaders of the LWO, which for me was really strange. I gotta say, I think the boy Santos Escobar is an absolute star in the making. I think he has a great look. I think he's really, really crisp in the ring. You know, he's sharp. I think he's getting better on the mic and stuff like that. When they give him mic time and stuff like that, I think he's going to be phenomenal. It would be strange I know the LWO they've done really, really well in the merchandise sales. So for me, it's very strange to see them pit Ray and Escobar against each other now and look to almost wrestle for control. Or is it just going to be that Ray is putting Escobar over and that at the end we get the hug and there's a passing of the torch, so to speak, and you're the new leader of the LWO, but I'm still with you? Or how does it work? You know, I'm a little bit unsure. And then obviously the winner goes to face Austin Theory. And I fully expect the winner of Ray and Escobar to win the title. I think this is nailed on that Escobar gets the title, if I'm honest. Because obviously with the way the merch sales have gone and stuff like that, to add a title to the LWO, it could be huge. Could really be huge for them.
Yeah, and Theory, I think in this US title run, he's gotten a little bit stale, hasn't he?
It's been very poor.
Hasn't quite delivered at all. So I think a change would be as good for him as it would be for the winner of the US belt.
100%.
2002, Rock and Brock, Kurt and Ray opener, HBK, Shawn Michaels, of course, Benoit and RVD. Such a good card, yeah.
Now that you've said it, Sean, awesome card. Absolutely awesome.
Absolutely. No, Daz, no watch along for the women's game. Too early for me. Absolutely. Ronda and Shayna should be in the fight pit. Right, we'll get in and start talking about some of the matches. Let's go from the top anyway. Rollins versus Balor. We've had a number of opinions on this between us, haven't we? It's interesting how this whole Judgment Day situation is evolving. What's your thinking on this one?
Yeah, you know, the Judgment Day have been unbelievable over the last few weeks. Obviously, Rhea with her win at Mania and stuff like that. And then you've got Damian Priest picking up the Money in the Bank the Money in the Bank briefcase in London. And then we've got Dirty Dom goes to NXT and wins the North American Championship. So, I mean, at the minute, Finn Balor is probably the only guy in the Judgment Day with something to prove, so to speak, because he doesn't either have a briefcase or he doesn't have some gold. Now, I know I've heard quite a few different stories about how Triple H seems to be really, really high on the Judgment Day, and they're the next story following on from the Bloodline. So would it make sense for us to see Balor with a world title? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we could see the title change hands here. I really do. I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know if we're going to get the swerve where, you know, Priest tries to get involved and he goes to use the briefcase possibly on Balor, but Niall set, and then Balor's able to go over and pin him, you know, and then all of a sudden it looks like Priest has done him a favor, but actually there's a little bit of an uneasy alliance there and stuff like that. I think that's possibly one way we could look at it. But I think this is going to be awesome. We know how good these two guys are in the ring. They're phenomenal competitors. They're so athletic. They always deliver, you know, on the match days for us. And I think we might be seeing that championship belt coming back to Ireland on Finn Balor's waist come Saturday week.
Interesting. I mean, the last match, I think we were both very critical of the last match, wasn't that Money in the Bank?
Of the finish.
That we didn't feel that the match lived up to the hype or the build up. The vignette that was pulled, the 7 years, the bitterness.
I think the biggest issue was where they put it in the card. I think they didn't give them the platform to go out and deliver. And I don't think they'll do that again. I think they understand it has to go in a certain... I wouldn't be surprised to see that as the opener.
Plus, I suppose we have to add as well, up till that point, it was a phenomenal card. So they had a lot to live up to as well.
Well, I mean, you've had John Cena's return. You had Drew's return. You had the men's Money in the Bank. Like, you've had so much at that stage. The crowd were so flat by the time this match came on. And I think that's what happened. I think guys struggled to get into it. We didn't even have the choruses of, whoa, of the Rollins entrance and stuff like that, the way we did in, say, in Cardiff or elsewhere. I won't be surprised to see these guys go on first absolutely steal the show when everyone has that energy and setting the tone. And again, I think we're looking at a new world champion here. I think Finn Balor takes the belt on Saturday week off Seth Rollins. I really do.
Interesting. Sean's in. Don't know how I feel about Finn and Seth. Love seeing fellow countrymen do well, but Finn's style is very slow and methodical now. What you thinking of?
I wouldn't say it was slow. I mean, Finn is able to go with anybody. You know, I think technically he's one of the best wrestlers in the world. I think at times WWE struggle to sell him. You know, Rollins again, an unbelievable athlete. Really, really is. But a little more of a showman than Balor. And is just able to project himself a little bit better than Finn Balor is. You know?
Yeah, I think probably part of that character. I mean, if you look at that image there, you've got Seth there, who's the outlandish, colourful, outgoing, jokery type guy. You can see the smirk there and how it comes through. Balor's more kind of downward looking, determined, evil kind of. Probably should be slower and methodical in his approach to fit but where he's coming from.
You know what? You know? There's a really strange parallel for me. And the parallel is if we look at when Balor doesn't have that face paint on, he doesn't quite reach the heights of when he does. Now, whether that's something conscious or something subconscious, I don't necessarily believe in Finn Balor as Finn Balor as much as I do when I see Finn Balor the Demon. So I think that's got that little bit of extra spice. Now, I know the issue is the more you give it, it lessens its impact. But I think when I see Finn Balor the Demon, you know, I think he's...
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I think he sells that much better than he sells Finn Balor, the wrestler. Do you know?
I suppose the counter argument to that is every time he's kind of showed up as the Demon, excluding NXT, which was just sensational, the stuff he's done down there. But when he's come up onto the big shows as the Demon, it's kind of not been that much of a lucky charm for him, if you like, really. You know?
No, well, he's only lost a couple with it.
You know, you got Turnbuckle Gate. You got a lot of things.
But I mean, he won the belt against Seth as the Demon. You know, and yes, he was very unlucky, but I mean, that happens any night of the week. It just so happens it happened as he was the Demon. But he sells the Demon way better than he sells Finn Balor. And even like you said, from looking at the picture, when I see him almost with the head down, for me, if he was in the Demon costume, that head would be up. He just feels a little bit bigger. He just feels a little bit stronger. That gives him that power, you know. And I feel like maybe that's what we get if he doesn't win the belt.
The Judgment Day has just become such a dark faction, really, as well, isn't it? So when you see him looking like that with the eyes like that, the eyes when I see them like that nearly remind me. Remember the way Jeff Hardy nearly used to paint the eyes on him?
Yes, that's right.
Clothes, kind of like that and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, his facials and his interaction and stuff like that, and you know, even with the way when he's coming to attack Rollins and stuff like that, and the grunting and and he's getting it like he's selling it really, really well. You know, I think WWE need to play really, really clever with this. And the match at Money in the Bank didn't deliver. Personally speaking, I feel like they're giving it a second chance because they know it didn't deliver the way it can deliver. Or the way it delivered, say, when he won the belt the first time, the Universal belt off Rollins, which was a phenomenal match, don't forget. I think they're going to send Rollins and Balor out first to set Detroit alight. And I think these two lads are more than capable of it.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. Yeah, I don't know what to think, really. Balor getting the belt and all. And I mean, I suppose they have to be cautious as well in terms of if you're building up a legacy of a belt, it's a new belt that they've introduced and stuff like that. They don't want to, you know, devalue it in a way. And I wouldn't say devaluing it because it would go on Finn. I mean, devalue in terms of how long people carry it. They seem to be, with the exception of the women's tag belts, going down the road of lads hanging on to belts for a long time, traditional type of way to create that kind
certainly
of
a little longer,
value
are we? Yeah,
absolutely. But
that can work,
interesting.
as you said, that can work for and against you. I mean, if you look at Theory, he's gone stale at this stage because the belt, for me, has been on him too long and he hasn't managed to do enough with it. Whereas I think you can keep this fresher and you can keep it, much more relevant if the belt changes hands, where people go, whoa, does it change hands here? And
I think as well. I think the company are culpable as well at dropping the bell or dropping the ball on Theory as well from the Mania situation.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I think there's a lot of that as well. I mean, the guy's exceptionally talented and stuff like that. But
he's a world champion in the making.
Yeah,
100%.
Let's take a few more comments before we get into the next one. Where am I? There, like all Logan matches, we're going to hate how ludicrously great it is. Absolutely, we'll get into talking about that in a few minutes. We can hop around them if you want and stuff like that. But I have some good stuff on Logan Paul. I thought the other night was sensational. I have to say,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, well, I mean,
brilliant and real.
Seeing Sean has brought it up, I think we should.
Yeah, let's get into it then. Yeah, we'll follow through the comments then.
Yeah, the first thing I want to say. Because we've spoken a lot about Logan Paul and about him now, how phenomenal he's been and stuff like that. It's not necessarily his ballpark, but he's made it his ballpark. Every time he shows up, the kid is phenomenal. The one thing I am going to say, though, is Ricochet has become a huge success story in WWE. A really huge success story. Initially, he was billed as the man that could, do this and do that. And that didn't really sit well. And then they kind of paired him up a couple of times and he went with Braun and stuff. And you're thinking, no, I'm not so sure of this. Now they're allowing Ricochet to be Ricochet. Now they're giving him spotlight. They're giving him ring time. They're giving him opponents that will make him look good and that he can make look good. And I think he's doing a really, really phenomenal job. I think he did really, really well at Money in the Bank to help Logan Paul out with the slip on the ropes and stuff like that, and to rescue the table rescue the table spot, Yeah. But I think there's a lot of credit has to go to Ricochet and how he's been able to build this with Logan Paul, because Logan Paul's a huge, huge star. Let's not forget that. He only needs to show up for things to be huge. Ricochet, on the other hand, at one stage was being billed as a flop in WWE and a guy who wasn't going to make it. And he's turned that back. He's done really, really well. I think, obviously, the way things are being done productively now and behind the scenes, it sets the scene better for wrestlers like Ricochet, they've got a better platform from the backstage. But he's done a phenomenal job. And I think even when we've seen him now on the mic and we've seen him come face-to-face with Logan Paul, where he comes over the ropes and he flips on SmackDown 2 weeks ago and lands on the feet, you're just thinking, whoa, I'm starting to believe this kid now, really, really good job. So hats off to Ricochet for building himself back up in WWE. Because again, it did look like it was, the candle was starting to fade a little bit. And maybe you look at it and you think this guy's going to be released. He's going to end up in the minor leagues with the Bucks and all these other Chavo Guerreros, But done a great job. Fair play to him.
Yeah, I think what's happened, he's super talented.
Yeah,
and he's ingenious in the way he thinks about wrestling and the things he can come up with. And he's always been that guy in the mid card that generated interest. But I think at times he probably held himself back because I just think he's probably too nice a guy. And I think he maybe needed the politic a bit more to elevate himself. And I think that this could really elevate him and break him out of that kind of situation to elevate him up into a next tier. Against Logan Paul and stuff like that. And it's mad to think, isn't it? We often say sometimes in wrestling that the good things and the things that happen and that we love where people become stars are often the things that come out of something that wasn't meant to happen. Like if you look at that kind of semi-blown spot at Money in the Bank where they saved the spot basically and got it, but it was touch and go like and stuff like that. But it's mad to think that that's, if that spot had just come off perfectly,
it was about 3 seconds from being on the Botchamania.
Yeah, it was about 4 inches from death, But it was it's mad to think that what can spawn out of this now is a storyline with this situation. Logan Paul, in terms of elevation, everyone knows how hot people are on him and stuff like that. But for Ricochet, it's a huge opportunity now. And he's going in there with a guy, obviously, who's open to anything. Like Logan Paul is open to anything and 9 times out of 10 will deliver as well.
Yeah.
But I think this could be a watershed moment for Ricochet in his career in terms of that platform and elevation in this.
I think so. I don't think he can lose from this. I think if he wins, he wins. And I think if he loses, he wins because of how good it is. Maybe we get that moment where it's very close and maybe Logan just gets the better and pins him or something like that.
Yeah.
But then we get the handshake and we get the holy shit, you're way better than I thought you were. And that just shines a light on Ricochet, because don't forget, Logan more than likely will fade back into the backstage area after this. And we won't see him for a little while, maybe
Probably
till
Survivor Series, Survivor
possibly,
Series. Possibly,
if not, because
or Rumble.
what? I think Rumble's the ideal scenario, because I think it gives him a little bit of a breath of fresh air then, that when he does come back, you get that, whoa, it's Logan Paul, because don't forget, between now and then, every time he sits down in front of a camera to do a YouTube or to do anything, someone's going to say, Logan, when are you back in WWE? Logan, can we ask Logan? And don't forget, if he comes back at Royal Rumble, he sets something up then for WrestleMania 40. Yeah, and all of a sudden, you're back. It's the flashing lights of that huge event. It's WrestleMania 40. It's Logan Paul versus whoever. And, it could be huge for WWE. Could be huge. And for Logan Paul.
And I did want to make the point about the camera work the other night, and I thought it was absolutely brilliant when he was on the camera, and he took the super kick to the face first and went down with the camera. But the way he had the presence to hold the camera in the perfect position to catch all the action, and then
camera never moved as he took it.
Yeah,
like how many attempts do you have to do with that backstage or in a ring to nail that on the night?
And then the slight adjustment of catching Ricochet coming in for that sort of swanton splash or whatever he calls it, straight onto him. It gave us, you know what it did? It gave me a real feel of what it's probably like to be a wrestler on the mat, taking that move.
Absolutely.
It sort of teleported me into the ring as a fan. And I was kind of thinking, it'd be really cool down the future if they did something like that, maybe with a kind of a GoPro kind of thing or something like that. It'd be really
I
cool.
don't know if you've seen it, but I've seen it twice this week in football. And one of them was the referee cam in the Arsenal game for Gabriel Jesus' chip. The ball gets knocked back to him and the referee standing behind him. Yeah. And as it comes in, he just dinks it to the far stick, but you see it from the referee's angle. It looks awesome. And the other thing was, Aston Villa last night sent Yuri Tielemans out with one on.
Cool.
And he had one on, and Yuri Tielemans was man of the match last night.
Yeah.
So you've seen a lot of what he did and how he did it. Now he dropped into pockets and looked and played, and I just thought, wow, this is the future that we're. But if you look at WWE, it's something that they were able to do on Monday night and do very effectively. I mean, I did, as you spoke about, to do that with the precision to make sure that you catch that your awareness is so good that you can make sure I'm in this shot, I hold it at this angle, that when Ricochet comes in for the next spot, we catch every single bit of this. Unbelievable timing.
Because I don't know about you, but when he did that splash on him, it made me kind of wince.
Absolutely.
Kind of, so it was pretty
100%.
cool. It was kind of nearly like VR or something like that. It was really, really cool. But yeah, absolutely. I think this will be a phenomenal match. And look, Logan Paul, and you put Logan Paul and Ricochet together, look at the history they have and stuff like that of doing stuff and all. Daz is in. Did you know it's Triple H's birthday today? I did, Daz. I'm a huge Triple H fan. And I think I sent it out there on Twitter as well. Shout out to the game. Awesome.
And listen, he was the game, and I think now we can say he's the whole damn show, doing a phenomenal job at WWE. Absolutely phenomenal in how he's running, the show. Unbelievable, Triple H. Happy birthday, and thank you for rescuing us from the brink. It's been a phenomenal turnaround to see where WWE was in 2.5 years ago.
Rescuing us from the dark side of the WWE universe or whatever it is. Big up Eno's in the chat there. What's the crack? All good.
Hey, Ian.
Sean's leading the show for us here tonight. If Gunther and Drew is anything like the Mania match or the match with Sheamus in Wales, it'll be phenomenal. So let's move on to Gunther and Drew. Let's go.
The match with Sheamus in Wales was unbelievable. We were there, and probably our match of the night. The two boys were unbelievable. I gotta say, Gunther has been phenomenal since his main roster call up. Absolutely phenomenal. Really has carried himself so well. Obviously uses the two lads really, really well. You know, he's taken things to the next level. I don't think anyone envisaged, you know, Walter, the UK champion, becoming this kind of a star. But he is on his way to the very, very top of WWE. He will 110% be a world champion down the line. I have no question about that. If he does with it what he's doing with this belt, you know, he's going to explode. He'll be one of the biggest wrestlers in the world in the next couple of years if he's not there already.
Yeah, he's had a phenomenal year. He's gotten into phenomenal shape. Got married to the lovely Ginny.
That's right.
He's really made that IC belt really, really relevant again.
Yeah.
It really now, it's actually, when we talk about them going back into history and the way they do things, the way it used to be done and stuff like that, when we talk about that IC belt, it's literally become the gatekeeper belt of the world titles again, hasn't it? With the way they presented
which,
this. That's
which
phenomenal.
It was always, you know, we saw Bret Hart win an IC championship against Mr. Perfect at SummerSlam. Are we going to say 91? 91, and he lost it at 92 then to Davey Boy. Obviously, there was a couple of trades in between, and then that elevates him to go and win a world heavyweight title. This is what the IC belt was for. This is something that fell away, and it's
Lost
something that they're hugely, massively, but it's something that they're bringing back, and it's you know, it's standing to them. It's going to stand to Gunther when he does make it into that main event, you know, that world heavyweight championship picture, because he's really taken the IC belt to huge new heights against Sheamus, you know, against Matt Riddle, against Drew McIntyre, just all comers, and just done a phenomenal job, I have to say.
Yeah, let's quickly talk about Drew then. I mean, obviously Drew came back at Money in the Bank, hit the ring, hit that man with the Glasgow kiss. Looked absolutely phenomenal, in great shape, looked the part, was well up for it. I kind of had a little bit of questions, maybe they've been answered now at this stage, about him coming back and all the talk before it about contracts and injuries and whatever else it was. But what have you made of him coming back in there? Have you made him coming back in there that he can now potentially take the belt off Gunther, and then he can kind of make it his own in terms of building himself back up into the top level again from where he was? Because I really do think Drew, he probably deserves a big title win at a Mania with fans, doesn't he? He was really
absolutely. He was pivotal in keeping the ship afloat for WWE, when fans weren't there and stuff like that during the pandemic. He was pivotal in that. He obviously didn't get the WrestleMania moment he would have wanted or deserves. I think he looked unbelievable when he came back. I've seen a couple of pictures of him recently. He hasn't looked as good. I think it probably depends on the time of day you catch our Drew. I saw a couple of pictures of a friend of mine, met him at an airport, and he looked really, really rough. But I think this is big for Drew, because there is obviously conversations have gone on behind the scenes here. And I think this has possibly been sold to him as you've said, you come in, you maybe go back and forth with Gunther, you eventually take the belt, Gunther goes on to bigger things, 9 months down the line, you do the same thing. You go into that title picture on the basis of your IC run, and then you pass the belt to the next incumbent, and that type of scenario. And I think it's important for Drew, because I think at the minute his stock is a little bit lower than he would like. Now, we know how good Drew McIntyre is. He was phenomenal for a couple of years there and carried the WWE on his own back. Really did. But we need to see that Drew get an opportunity at the main event with the fans in the arena, where we see how big Drew is as a personality. Because I think when the pandemic hit, you know, obviously seeing him win the title was amazing. We were all behind him and stuff like that, and there was a lot of belief in him. But I think we didn't get to see what he did with the fans. And I think that's something that maybe he needs to still prove. Which again, if he can prove it, it elevates him again and it lifts him even higher up. If he can't prove it, he maybe stagnates at a lower level, which he doesn't see himself at. And that's where I'd see there being an issue with maybe WWE along the line. if they don't see him as that main event card wrestler, and he does, if they see him as something below that level, Drew might decide, you know what, I'm going to head somewhere else. And listen, let's be honest. If he heads to AEW, he's a world champ within a month because he's believable. You know what I mean? He's a legitimate tough guy, and he will go out and rip the head off Adam Cole, off MJF, CM Punk, anybody, and you will believe that nobody's going to take that title off Drew McIntyre.
Yeah, I just don't see that being the case. What I'm looking at there is your IC title match here that you have for SummerSlam could very well be your main event World Heavyweight match at SummerSlam next year.
Possibly, and that's what I said.
That's the opportunity that exists, you know.
Yeah, I think you're right, because I do see maybe Drew picking up this belt, because I think, as you said, Gunther needs to now go and take the next step in his career. And I think you have to be careful about how long you keep the belt on him. And again, how relevant it is and does it become stale and stuff like that. You know, if there was, let's just go and talk pie in the sky for a second. Let's just say there was some sort of an issue here in the Jey Uso and Roman Reigns match, because there's a lot of talk behind the scenes about how this is going to unfold. And I don't know whether you heard Paul Heyman on SmackDown, and he talks about Jey going to the elders.
Yeah.
And Roman talks about, I'm the only one who can talk to the elders and stuff like this. Who are the elders? Who are we getting to? Who is this drawn in? If this draws The Rock in and Roman Reigns needs to go that way, Jey Uso needs somebody to challenge him. Nobody better, to my mind, than Gunther. I think Jey Uso versus Gunther going back and forth, could be phenomenal. You can bring Jimmy back in on his side, because obviously Gunther has the two boys with him. And then you've also got ways of, you know, introducing, maybe if Solo comes on board as well, that you then have this kind of a thing, because he's gone out of the building for a little while until he comes back to call The Rock out, whenever that could be. That's probably going to be the lead up to Mania, we imagine, if that's how it's going to go down. So, like, Gunther could see himself there if he picks up a world title again. You could possibly see him and Drew in a year's time. Absolutely. I don't doubt that at all. Yeah,
Daz is in, set to win. He thinks Seth's going to win. It's going to be fairly straightforward, I would imagine. I don't know. I think there might be a little bit of it. See, I suppose what we're looking at here is it's highly unlikely that both top belts change hands in one pay-per-view. I'm not too sure whether that would be the case. So if that's...
And are you nailed on we're getting Jey Uso as the champ?
I'm not nailed on it. But there's been so much talk of Roman, you know, exiting the building for a while and stuff like that. Like, now, probably with the way the bloodline has kind of evolved and dissolved, if you like, it's probably as good a time now as any to do it with the way they've built up Jey, Jimmy going out solo. You know,
yeah, we should probably slide our way into that while we're on it, you know, because I got to tell you, this bloodline story has just blown my mind. This is probably the greatest storytelling we've ever seen in WWE. And if it's not the greatest, it's right up there with the other top, you know, storytelling moments. This is phenomenal. Like I know there's a lot of work gone into it, and it's been built, but this is what we asked for. We asked for this. We asked for, you know, good build, long-term storytelling. We asked for it not to be, you know, this guy this month, this guy that month, this guy, right? We don't want flavor of the month. We wanted to build. This storyline has been phenomenal. The way they took others into it, the way they brought, you know, Brock Lesnar into it, Paul Heyman into it, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens into it, you know, the Uso, Solo then at Clash of the Castle, Roman, just unbelievable. I firmly believe this is the greatest story that's ever been told in a wrestling ring. And I know there's people will say, whoa, way too much of that. But this is it for me now. I have to be honest. I think it's just different level altogether.
Yeah, I think I think in 10 and 15 years' time, they'll be talking about this whole bloodline storyline.
Yeah,
I think it will be put up there as I would say the way to do sports entertainment stroke professional wrestling. This is how it should be done.
yeah.
Especially at the top end of the card and at the top end of the shows, this is how it should be done. I know people will talk about, well, how many times does he defend the belt, and the belts have been a prisoner to him and all this kind of stuff. And all. That's
Doesn't
fine,
matter.
but that's part of the story. You need that
Yeah.
in there. But I kind of, if Roman wins, I'm not too sure then where it goes. You know, that kind of way. It just rolls on again.
The only factor in that is, how does Roman win?
Yeah.
And that's where maybe you open the door to something else, you know. But I think you're right. I think, you know, people are going to look at this the way we look at, you know, classic football matches and classic wrestling matches over the years. We go, look at this. You know, like if we look at, say, Ultimate Warrior, Macho Man, WrestleMania 7, the storytelling, you know, with Elizabeth and Sherry and career versus career and all of this, like top drawer. Absolutely top drawer.
Big wrestling moments. Big
Sergeant Slaughter, Hulk Hogan, you know, with the obviously it happened at Hogan winning the Rumble and Slaughter then taking the belt off the Ultimate Warrior with the help of the Macho Man. And then, you know, we go back and we look at Hogan celebrating in the dressing room and being lit on fire and all of this stuff. Long-term storytelling. Moments that stay in your mind for a long, long time. You know, stuff done so well. This is going to be up there, if not on top of the mountain, because I genuinely don't know, or I can't get my head and my brain around another set of storytelling that's been anything like this. This is just other level, just completely different level. It really is. From the entrance music to the production, to the facials, to the storytelling, to the crowd interaction, to how they sell spots, to the you know, the way the intricacies and how they use different characters at different times. Just out the door. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like unbelievable.
Yeah, we could probably go as far as to say the way the bloodline thing has been structured and put together and all has become the blueprint for everything in there, raising the bar. Most people have probably looked at what these guys are doing and gone, you know something, I really need to get out of catering and up my game and start doing what needs to be done here and stuff like that.
100%.
And I think the bloodline, as much as people think it has imprisoned the top end of the cards and stuff like that and all, it's also dragged and elevated a lot of the performances in there and stuff like that. And I think that's why we're saying not only phenomenal matches, but we're seeing phenomenal cards and phenomenal shows and stuff like that as well. Baz is in the house. What's the crack, lads? Big up, Baz.
If you're somebody else on that card, and if every time you look at that card you see Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, Roman Reigns, you know, Randy Orton, Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, right? You know that is absolutely 110% going to deliver, right? And you know, for you to make your match get any sort of a glancing blow on them, it has to be off the charts. That's what it's done, and it's raised the bar, as you say. So important.
Yeah, absolutely. So my feeling on this is I don't see both titles changing hands. So whichever one is on first, maybe will give us a fair idea of what's going to happen. I'd be really, really shocked if both titles changed hands in the one card. It is SummerSlam. It is a huge premium live event, but it's I don't know. That would be interesting to see what happens. Ian is saying, I don't think Fergal Devitt will win the title. Yeah, absolutely. And he's back in again. The Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar should be a steel cage match.
There should have been some sort of stipulation. I don't know if it should have been a steel cage match, but it should have been some sort of stipulation. Now, I think your issue with Cody is he's obviously not too far removed from the Hell in a Cell match with Seth Rollins. So you don't want to go back over that old ground that quickly, you know? And obviously, if you turn it into a cage match or you turn it into Hell in a Cell, you do weight the match on Brock's side a little more.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now, again, there's a lot of talk around this match and about how this is going to go down. And because, you know, we're looking at it And I suppose we imagine that Cody's got to get the rub here if it's going to, again, push him and elevate him to that main card. And if we end up with Cody and Jay, like, that could be phenomenal. Again, it makes it look legitimate, because Cody, I feel, could take Jay and could take the belt off him if Jay can get it from Roman. But then what happens with Brock? And I think I've heard quite a lot about who's gonna be present at SummerSlam. And I think the big talk here is this is where possibly we see Bray Wyatt return. And there's talk of Wyatt either attacking Cody or attacking Brock.
Please don't do that. Please don't do that.
That's the talk at the moment. Bray's been pictured a couple of times recently, and he looks extremely healthy, looks extremely fit and happy. And there is talk that the only way that they can come to this, they can come to a decision on how Cody and Brock finishes is with the outside interference from, a Bray Wyatt maybe, and that sets Bray on a new path, either against Cody or against Brock.
Surely to God with both these guys going out into a rubber match, like that kind of thing should never be inserted in there. I mean, they're going out here. We're trying to figure out. Yeah, I know, but we're trying to figure out whether he's earned the stripes now and it's time to kick on and that kind of thing, or where does it leave him? With Brock, I presume Brock is just going to melt away for a while, probably till Survivor Series, and go back hunting and enjoying life at Sable and all that kind of stuff, because that's what he tends to do. But with Cody, I think this is really a watershed moment now. I think if Cody doesn't pick up this win, and in kind of an impressive fashion as well, I don't mean dominate Brock, but I mean go in there and mix it up. Like, remember the match Balor had with Brock? That was really, really good. That kind of way. And I think if he proves himself that way and he gets the win, I think that
was Royal Rumble, right?
Yeah, I think this elevates Cody then back into that top echelon kind of thing in a legit kind of way.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't necessarily see Cody, as falling that far. I mean, the match against Roman was unbelievable. He does everything bar get the victory that night and bar win the title. So he's not gone from there to there all of a sudden.
Yeah, but you got to remember the narrative that's been coming out and the situation that's been coming out is, has this guy paid his dues? Has this guy done this? Has this guy done that?
Listen.
I think what's evolved into this kind of best of three rubber match or whatever you want to call it kind of answers those questions for Cody.
Yeah, I got to be honest, I don't even see the questions. Like, if you're looking at Cody Rhodes and you don't think he's paid his dues, what are you watching?
Well, it's not me that they have to convince.
I know, but this is my point. Like, so it's got to be relevant and it's got to work for a certain portion of the audience. If you're somebody who's watching this and you don't see Cody Rhodes as a legitimate star and as a guy who has earned his stripes over the years, because don't forget, we had Dashing Cody Rhodes, we had the bag, like, that's paying your dues. He had the run with the IC belt, he was in Evolution, he obviously went to AEW, he built himself on the independence,
Legacy.
He did Legacy. He, like, Cody Rhodes has always mixed it at the upper echelons. Yeah, he dropped to the mid card for a while and went through that phase that lots of guys go through. But then when he went to the indies and stuff like that, and the independents, again, raised his own profile, went to AEW, same again, smashed it out of the ballpark, legitimized AEW for me, because he was a guy like Cody Rhodes that I went, you know what, I've seen this guy. Cody Rhodes is legitimate. Why do I know he's legitimate? Because I've seen him do it in WWE. And again, my thoughts on this. Unless you've done it in WWE, you are a nobody. And I mean that, like, and I'm talking about an Okada. I'm talking about a Will Ospreay. I'm talking about, guys that people sit at home and go, oh yeah, he's the best wrestler in the world. If he hasn't done it in WWE, he's a fucking nobody. That's the end of the discussion. Because WWE is the fucking Premier League. It's the Champions League. It's the FIFA World Cup. It's the Olympics. It's the fucking Super Bowl. That is it. If you are in a bleeding bingo hall down the road and you're turning out in front of 20 fans, you're not the biggest star in the world, you know. And that's the likes of the Okadas, the Will Ospreys, guys like this.
But that's why I still think he's on that path, you see, because I wouldn't say legacy set out in the light. I certainly wouldn't say Dashing Cody Rhodes set out in the light. And to be honest with you, I'd say a lot of that stuff that was back then, a lot of that stuff in the eyes of a lot of wrestling fans is quite forgettable, to be honest. I think when he did go out and he refound and rediscovered himself and recreated the brand Cody Rhodes and the AEW and all that kind of stuff, yeah, I agree. That sets him on a path. And then he obviously made the decision to come back because he kind of knew, like most people know. I mean, we know where the cream is.
Yeah,
we know like, where the when he use an old saying, where the big boys play.
Right.
You know?
When he became the American Nightmare was when I seen him as a legitimate star. Right. And he did build that outside. But all the stuff that happened before that, the Stardust, the bag, the face mask, that's paying your dues. That's, you know what I mean, going through the shy that you've had to go through. Like a Kofi Kingston, who's gone through, you know, IC belts. He's gone through Rumble spots. He's gone through, you know, ladder matches. He goes through the New Day. He becomes a tag champion. He builds and builds and builds and builds and builds until eventually he hits the spot at Mania. And we get that.
I disagree with that to the point where I think unless you're Hogan and you're going to WCW, I think there's a certain amount of credibility there. But I think if you leave WWE, I think at that level, a lot of the stuff that they did, be it tag belts or IC belts and stuff like that, no. I think once you leave and you exit the building, wrestling fans very quickly move on to the next thing. They don't hang around. And as you said, there's a lot of fans out there that are just WWE, WWF purists. They don't necessarily watch AEW or Impact Wrestling or Ring of Honor or New Japan or any of that kind of stuff. And I think what happens is that paying your dues prior to leaving the building, I think that's like the tide and it gets taken back out eventually and you're starting again.
I don't think so.
I don't think Cody Rhodes would look at Dashing Cody Rhodes as carrying any credibility and paying your dues.
It's not about credibility, but I think credibility and paying your dues are two different things. Because I mean, you pay your dues as Dashing Cody Rhodes.
But you can't pay your dues unless but you can't pay your dues unless it's accepted as being credible. And that was mainly
but you see,
Legacy was an
your
absolute disaster.
No, you gain your credibility. No, Legacy wasn't a complete disaster.
Legacy was an absolute disaster.
No, I disagree with you there.
Look at how quick Randy Orton checked out of Legacy. Legacy was a disaster.
I don't think Legacy was personally speaking, I don't think it was. I think you look at Cody paying his dues back then in WWE, but then you look at him legitimizing himself outside and coming in then. Do you know what I mean? And the way he did that. I think, listen, I see Cody Rhodes as a star. WWE see him as a star. The fans see him as a star. Every time he steps into that ring, they're fully invested in him. He's the top merch seller at the minute in WWE. They can't keep gear on the shelves, right? He is a huge star. What they haven't done yet is they haven't said, here's the baton. He will eventually be past the baton and he'll be told to run with it until we say stop or until we get you to hand it to somebody else. But he is absolutely a main event star, you know, for my money. Now, I understand what you're saying about if you're trying to build him as that, do you want to involve a Bray Wyatt? You know, how you involve a Bray Wyatt is different. You know, if Cody goes and picks up the win clean, and maybe as he's exiting the ring, Wyatt comes in and feeds on the body of a Brock Lesnar or something, maybe that sets something up for down the road where, you know, Lesnar goes out with a building for a little while and we get Bray Wyatt coming back and then all of a sudden Brock returns and Wyatt's like seeing a ghost, you know, that type of thing. We've seen it before.
I honestly think, and this is how I'm going to lay it out for you, I honestly think if Bray Wyatt interferes with this match or Bray Wyatt gets involved in this match in any way, it's absolute career suicide. And it means that the company is not as convinced about Cody Rhodes as we think as fans. That's what I actually believe, because you look at anyone who's gotten involved with Bray Wyatt, and no disrespect to Bray Wyatt.
Yeah, but Cody wouldn't necessarily be getting involved with Bray. Cody's already gotten the win which has pushed him that way. But they still need to do something with Brock Lesnar, is what I'm saying to you.
But they don't, because Brock tends to just go off. So there's no need to set at him up there. And let's be honest here. Brock Lesnar, I can categorically tell you now, when you look at what Brock Lesnar's been doing in there and the matches being having, he will have absolutely zero interest in working with Bray Wyatt.
But you know what?
You that now.
It might be what they need for Bray Wyatt, because let's be honest, since his return, things didn't go so well. They sold it at the beginning really well. The return, the door at Survivor Series and stuff, unbelievable, right? And then it falls off a cliff because of how it was rolled out. And the deal with Uncle Howdy and the missed spots with LA Knight, and you're like, Jesus, lads,
the
this
whole
is
thing
all
was
over
shite.
shop.
Let's not mess around here. The whole thing was shite.
Absolutely, and you know, I'm touching on that 100%. So they've got to then do something with Bray Wyatt, because again, like, things haven't necessarily gone the way we thought they would have gone for Bray Wyatt. But Bray Wyatt's a star. 110%. Bray Wyatt is a star. He's a draw. If you look at how he's able to drag people in all the time, he is, again, he's a legitimate star. WWE haven't played the hands very well for him so far since he returned. And I think obviously exiting the building with the injury and stuff like that, pre-Mania, which scuppered the match with Bobby Lashley, made things difficult. But Wyatt is a star. And I think maybe it could be something like this that gets Wyatt back on the path as well. Because you got to remember, if you're WWE and you're paying out this money to a guy, and you're paying good money, by the way, you want to come back off this. This is how business works. So they've got to project Wyatt in a certain way that they can get people to start buying T-shirts, figures, masks, whatever it is.
I honestly think Bray Wyatt, I thought Bray Wyatt would have done something like what Drew did when Drew went out onto the Indies to reinvent himself again. And Bray Wyatt has done none of that. He hasn't gone out onto the Indies. He hasn't gone to any other shows to reinvent himself, to put himself out there. There hasn't been any major character development. It's come back with a slightly different version of the same old stick. He tends to look really, really poor and disinterested when it's not received very well and stuff like that. And that's fine. But I just think, I don't know how many times you can kind of gimmick this thing up and reinvent it with a different mask or a different puppet or a different cardigan or a different door or a different coloured smoke and expect people to go back in there again. You think about where this product has gone in the last 18 months, that shithousery doesn't fit in there at all now whatsoever.
And listen, I wouldn't even make an argument for that, because you're 100% right. And we talked about the two boys in the top right-hand corner, Roman and Jay, with the Bloodline storyline, the way they've elevated everything. I feel like Bray was involved in stuff at a time where things weren't necessarily going as well as they are now with WWE. Storylines weren't getting told the right kind of way. I don't necessarily look at Bray and lay an awful lot of the blame at his door, because don't forget, there's an awful lot that goes on behind the scenes where this is how we're going to do things. And I think WWE dropped the ball on on Bray Wyatt. And I think it's up to WWE, if they see value in Bray Wyatt and they want him to get some value out of Bray Wyatt, which, the only way to get value out of a wrestler is for him to be selling you T-shirts or masks or games or figures, whatever it is. I think they need to legitimize him, and they need to give him a much better set of parameters to work in. Because the Mountain Dew match at the Rumble was like...
And we're big fans of Mountain Dew, me and you. We're big fans of Mountain Dew.
Right, so it's not Mountain Dew, it's not LA Knight, and it's not Bray Wyatt. It's how it was put together.
But when you...
From a point of even, the way they did the light with the body paint and stuff like that. Like, they sell them as...
The whole thing was shy. It was insulting to us as fans. Let's be honest.
Absolutely.
It was insulting.
And I'm certainly not going against that. But I am saying, I think they let the can drop with that. And I think they understand they let the can drop with that. And I think when they come back, like, we have to... Okay, for me, I think we have to see something a little bit closer to the Wyatt family, Bray. I think we've got to get rid of masks. I think we've got to get rid of, other things. I think we need to have Bray as a figure again. And I think we need to get Bray to bring along his bags of toys and his friends. But I think we have to stop this mask thing. And I think we have to stop this character changing and swapping thing. It's got to be, and it might be a little while for it to sit with people. And it might have to brew a little bit, and we might have to see him on a SmackDown and see him beat somebody. Because, again, this is what they robbed us of. They robbed us of him having matches week to week. And he was just a pay-per-view guy. And it didn't work. He's got to come. He's got to be there. And if he's going to bring, his entourage with him, about Dallas, whoever else is coming with him, and Uncle Howdy, and, if he's going to bring these guys, that's fine. And they can be a faction, and they can be a faction that works. But they have to make him legitimate. The mask has to go. That has to go. This Fiend thing, we've got to have Bray Wyatt. And if he's going to have the Wyatt 8 or whatever he's going to have, that's what we just got to nail this. Because if they don't nail it this time, Bray Wyatt's gone.
But
he's got one more bite of the cherry.
How many times have we said this? And the thing I'd say to you, I know you were saying, about the company and stuff like that, but look at the phenomenal job the company has done with just what's on that screen alone. And at what point does the guy take responsibility? Like, how many times can this go wrong and everyone just keeps on going, it's the shithousery from the company, it's this, that, and the other and all. When does the guy step out of the shadow and take responsibility?
What could he have done differently with what they gave him? What they gave him?
Well, I mean, he came back on this wave of it was all going to be new. He was going to have creative control. He was going to have this, that, and the other. This is why he decided to come back. He went off for the guts of a year or whatever it was, or 18 months, whatever length of time he was gone. And he literally sat on his ass and did nothing. He didn't go out there and try and reinvent himself. He came back in a Firefly Funhouse 2.0, load of horse shite, and went out there, delivered that Mountain Dew match or whatever it was, and it was the biggest load of insulting crap to fans. When you think of everything else that was going on. Now let's think over the last 18 months how much this company has been getting right and spot on and perfect and unbelievable in terms of character development, building matches, storylines, all that kind of stuff.
But we also talked about
back into the building and it's a failure again.
We also talked about Bray and Seth not hitting the spots at Money in the Bank, right? And they're two guys who have got so much right over the last number of years with the Judgment Day, with Seth Rollins and the character and how it's evolved and the layers and stuff like that. So there are times things just don't sit. Now, I don't believe Bray Wyatt comes back with creative control and says, let's do a Mountain Dew match. I don't believe that. That's not believable for me.
Well, if you're trying to rebuild yourself up and you're going back in there and you've been given this kind of carte blanche that you're going to be more heavily involved and stuff like that, if that's not sitting right with you and you know it's not going to go down the way it should go down, fucking speak up and sort it out.
Yeah, but
don't just eat the shit off the spoon and then turn around and wave the company flag again. You know what I mean?
Okay? So is this why we haven't seen Wyatt in a while?
We haven't seen him in a while because no one gives a shit. We've gotten to a stage where no one gives a shit anymore. He hasn't been relevant since he was Bray Wyatt in the Wyatt family.
This was a fucking shit show. I necessarily think that's... I'm 100% with that. There was a stage where the Fiend character was taken off. But again, they misfired on this. I mean, the match with Randy Orton at WrestleMania in the box was fucking ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous.
The hologram match with the maggots. How many more do I have to mention?
Okay, but then let's look at
match.
Let's look at the John Cena WrestleMania match in the Muscle Man dance. Unbelievable. The cinematic match. Unbelievable. Like one of the best matches we've seen in a long time. And not to forget what he had done as Bray Wyatt, as the Eater of Worlds. I left the O2 Arena in London, to 20,000 people after a Monday Night Raw singing, he's got the whole world in his hands. WWE have a lot to answer for with Bray Wyatt as far as I'm concerned, because at times when he needed that push, when he should have beaten The Undertaker at WrestleMania, when he should have had a belt put on him. He didn't. And they dropped the ball. And they've continuously dropped the ball on him, again, for my money. So I think there's a lot owed to Bray Wyatt. I think he's paid an awful lot of dues, and I think more than just a mountain dew. And I think for a while, I think he needs to understand that yeah, he does need to be divisive, so to speak, and he needs to, be a little bit more like that and say, okay, I'm not taking my ball and running home with it, but I'm not going out to do the shit you want me to do either. So we got to come to some happy medium, because otherwise it's not going to work. And he just walks and we don't see him again. Because I think Bray Wyatt outside WWE, he's not interested, because I think he understands this is the major leagues. If I have to fuck off down the road to AEW, I'm not even bringing me boots, let alone me ball, right? Because I turn up there and I'm already the cheese.
Some would say he looks very uninterested even inside WWE, but I mean, that's an argument for another day. But I don't know. Listen, I was all in on the Wyatt family. I thought it was brilliant. The lantern was brilliant. The entrance was brilliant. Everything
rocking
was
chair, everything.
The
Wailing Mercy shirts.
But when you get down that other route, and out of 10, 12 high profile matches, you get 2 that are decent. You just have to start asking questions now. Whether it lies with the company, whether it lies with Bray Wyatt, whether it lies with both, I don't know. If he comes back, but I honestly think if he's inserted into any of this, I think it's such a swerve, and I don't know. Look, it'll be a short-lived pop for me anyway. I don't think if a guy goes out there and doesn't you look at Drew McIntyre and the mountain he climbed to come back to where he was and stuff like that. Yeah. And he was at a very, very low level at that stage. There was a lot of stuff going on. He was just come out of
3-man band or whatever it was, and
but he was going through the domestic stuff at home and the divorce, domestic stuff, and everything was going on.
Drew McIntyre legitimized himself outside that when he came back in. WWE knew initially he was going to be a star. He was the chosen one and all that and stuff. They knew what they had in their hands. And then they went and they built again through NXT, and they built and they built and they built. It was the right thing to do.
Maybe he'll convince me, but I'll be surprised. Acers is in. Roman Reigns is losing the championship until Mania when Cody Rhodes defeats him. Interesting.
I don't think we get Cody and Roman at WrestleMania.
I don't think so either.
No.
Ian's in. Rikishi returns. If not SummerSlam, it will be somewhere in the near future. Yeah, this could be part of the Elders thing, which will be very interesting.
Seems to be making his presence felt quite a lot, Rikishi, of late. I've seen him on podcasts, I've seen him on socials, where he had faded into the background quite a bit. And this is kind of, as the bloodline storyline has evolved, it's enabled Rikishi to get a little bit closer to the action. And again, it could be something we see. It could be Rikishi coming in and costing Roman. You wouldn't know.
Yeah, Ace just thinks maybe Jimmy causing Jay or Solo interference to retain. Yeah, there's so many parameters to that. Jay Uso versus Solo is advertised for Payback pay-per-view on September 2nd, night before AEW All-Out pay-per-view on Sunday, September 3rd.
Didn't say that myself now.
Judgment Day will break up at Survivor Series during the War Games match loss. I don't think Judgment Day are going to break up. I think what you might see is characters leaving and characters entering the building into the Judgment Day.
Yeah, it's going to be a Bullet Club scenario.
Yeah, I don't think they can afford, or an NWO. I don't think they can afford to break up the Judgment Day with the way the bloodline is being dissolved down a bit. I think they need the Judgment Day more than ever, and you can see by the way it's being presented at the moment. Daz is in. Can you see any comebacks like Randy or Bray or Big E? We just spoke about Randy or Bray there.
I can absolutely see Bray. As far as I know, Big E still isn't cleared.
Yeah.
And I think Randy has kind of stepped things up a little bit recently, but maybe not to the point where we're going to see him at SummerSlam.
Yeah, Ian's in. The Fiend gimmick was a joke. It was like a love child of Doink and Pennywise.
Yeah.
What is Cody Rhodes a nightmare of? The character was good back then before he returned to WWE. I don't know. I think that American.
I think that's really harsh.
Big up, hey Bress. I think that's how I pronounce it. Yo, Turkey. Big up, Turkey in the house. Awesome. Thanks for joining us. Welcome on board. Ian's in. Stardust was more of an American nightmare. No, he wasn't. No disrespect. Hey, Cody. Just win the world title and be done with this story, please.
A great new Stardust figure on the way out. There is in WWE Mattel Elites 103. There's a Stardust, and then there's a Chase Stardust in the blue and black rather than the yellow and black. Keep your eyes out for them. They'll be hitting shelves in the month of August.
I thought you were going to say the Chase Stardust is gold dust.
No.
Like that, you know?
The Chase Stardust is in the black and blue PVC instead of the black and yellow, and they'll hit shelves around about August, so keep your eye out for them.
Right when we're in America, so we'll definitely keep an eye out for them.
Well, they actually hit shores over here then.
Oh,
so
okay.
They've already hit shores over there. And the Chase Stardust is quite lucrative if you can get a couple of them. And they'll be making their way to our shores in August, where we'll be able to probably get quite a few chases.
Cool. Right, let's run through, what is it, the last two matches we've to cover there.
Two women's matches.
Shayna versus Ronda.
This is when I'll take my toilet break.
This is Ronda exiting the building and giving Shayna the robe, is it?
Absolutely. Listen, for me, Shayna should have been legitimized a little bit earlier, a little bit more sooner. Her being devoid of any sort of personality is certainly part of the issue. But I mean, as a badass, as a fighter, as a tough woman, she's got everything you would want from a female character. I think at times she struggles. I think, her mic skills aren't great. And I think she would benefit hugely from having somebody with her, a valet, some sort of a manager, because I think somebody could take Shayna Baszler to the next level. Somebody with her.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know. I can't put my finger on that one. I haven't thought about it enough. The triple threat.
Yeah, this will be interesting because I genuinely don't know what's going to happen here. Like, Asuka's obviously got the belt. You've got Bianca, and you've got the Queen, Charlotte Flair. Logic tells me Charlotte gets the title here, but I don't know if they're going to make it that easy for her with the way she's popped in and popped out recently. If they give her the belt, they're looking for her to stay a little bit longer and to be more involved. I don't think she wants that at the minute. I think, obviously, Bianca dropped the belt recently, so why would they give it straight back to her initially? And I think Asuka's still starting to build that character. And I don't know why they would take the belt off her at this stage. I'd probably see Asuka retaining here, but I'm interested to see how it evolves, because I think there's a number of ways that this story could be told.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking aloud here. I think the belt finds its way to... I think Asuka may keep the belt on this one, but ultimately finds its way to Charlotte. Because I think we probably have to go back and get another Charlotte Becky, do we? There's a lot of unfinished business there, isn't there?
Possibly. I think if that's going to happen, Becky needs to do something massive for herself. Because I think at the minute, I don't like how she looks in the ring. I don't like how she looks in the ring. I don't like how she's
caught up in this whole nostalgia ring thing, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm not a fan of it at all. I think I think there's a possibility there. Absolutely, from Acers. And I think it broadens everyone's horizon with somebody new in the mix, and with Io Sky with the belt. But I think if it's just going to be a straight match, I think Asuka retains. I don't think they take the belt off her this soon after her starting to develop the character and stuff like that,
Yeah, it kind of makes sense as well, doesn't it? Because, I mean, they are getting a lot of flack over the women's tag belts. It's just become a little bit sort of... It's just kind of sticking out compared to everything else that's going on, being so traditional, so legit, so longevity.
Well, I mean, I think they hoped they could do that with Ronda and Baszler, and they stunk the place out. And they absolutely stunk the place out, and everybody kind of swerved it. And then you've got Liv come back, and you can do the big pop and the heel turn from Baszler and stuff like that. So they do that quite creditably, And then again, I think what they've done with Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green was quite good, because again, I see them as, I would see Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville as holding the titles now for a long time. I think they'll do wonders with it. I'm calling it now. I think they will do wonders with these belts. I got to be honest, and I don't know whether you've seen it or not, but Zack Ryder showed up with the belt on at his last, I think it was a GCW gig, and he came out with his own world title, but he had the WWE Ladies Tag Team Championship around his belt as he climbs onto the thing. Unreal, brilliant. Setting the paving stones in place for his return, I would think, as well.
Yeah. Anyway, final bit of information coming out before we finish up is these two. Obviously, it's Triple H's birthday, so happy birthday. Yeah. But people, as you said, were quite surprised between the US situation, the US title, and LA Knight. He's over like it's unbelievable. Yeah. But there's talk apparently of a planned segment at SummerSlam with a megastar. Now, what that means, I don't know. He's been getting an awful lot of flack about The Rock. There's been a lot of stuff going out there with Kevin Nash and various people like that talking about this Rock Stone Cold hybrid kind of thing and all that kind of thing. Yeah. I think he's absolutely brilliant. I think he's sensational. I think he's over. I think he looks the part as well. What you're thinking here? What are you thinking he might have planned and stuff like that? Is this, are we getting Rock?
Well, listen, I heard obviously the Rock storyline, and one of them was the fact that maybe it becomes the Grayson Waller experience, and we get the Rock coming in there to the Grayson Waller experience, and if we get the Rock coming in and stuff like that, maybe he puts a little bit of a beat down on Waller and stuff like that, and maybe there's a little bit of a rub from Rock tonight. Maybe there's a chat backstage. Maybe there's something, where he goes, keep going, do something extra. I don't know what it is. I don't know how it's going to be billed or portrayed, but I mean, for LA Knight to be walking down the backstage and to bump into The Rock, and for The Rock to say, hey, you're that guy, aren't you? You're that guy. And then him to go, yeah, or something like that, elevates. And then all of a sudden, maybe he takes on Waller, beats Waller, and then he goes on to, take a toy. I don't know. I still think they've skipped the beat slightly with this, because he should have won the 6-pack challenge he should have won the challenge on SmackDown. He should have won that half of the draw and gone on to face Santos Escobar for my money, because I legitimately see him then as somebody who can go and take the belt off Austin Theory, because obviously we expected him to win Money in the Bank. Ooh, didn't happen. We expected them to win this. Oh, didn't happen. Are they going to keep popping the balloons on us, or are they going to let us, have our moment?
Yeah. I think the talk going around was that apparently backstage he was beginning to believe his own hype. Yes. And apparently they wanted to dampen it down a little bit. But apparently there is a segment planned for SummerSlam with what they're calling a megastar. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there and stuff like that. It'll give us an indication pushing into after the summer and the autumn, the plans really for LA Knight. How big is this segment going to be? But that's the talk, man. How come Becky doesn't have a match at SummerSlam? I think Darren probably laid it out for you there about 2-3 minutes ago. It's become just a little bit uninteresting, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
And I suppose with SummerSlam as well, 5 matches for this card happened very, very quick. So this card filled up really, really quick. And it wasn't pining out there for matches to add to it and stuff like that. It's a one-nighter. It's not a two-nighter like WrestleMania. So there's not an awful lot of room in this card. 5 matches was in there right from the get-go.
Yeah, and if I look at it, she doesn't, right now, I don't see her as a threat to Rhea Ripley. Rhea's going to take her out in a heartbeat because of how she looks at the minute. She needs to maybe put on a little bit of weight and look a little bit more muscular. If she's got, not muscular to a point where she's dense, but certainly size-wise where she can look like she's a physically threatening opponent for Rhea. Because at the minute, if you see Rhea here and you see, Becky Lynch here, you're going to think you've just ordered something off Wish, because Becky looks horrific. And we've spoken about that a few times. She's lost far too much weight for me. She doesn't look as athletic as she's been in the past. She doesn't look as explosive. She looks quite stale. I think even the way they've styled her with the makeup and the hair looks really, really poor. I think she's going for that retro look, that nostalgic look, as you said. I think they've missed the spot with it completely. I really do.
And I suppose let's not forget here, Rhea doesn't have a match on this card either. She's going to be part of obviously the Judgment Day situation.
Absolutely.
So she doesn't have a match either.
And
but
you know
she
what?
will certainly leave her mark on the show. There's no doubt about it.
Because right now she is such a big story. Every time you see her, if it's Raw, if it's NXT, if it's, they obviously did the thing last week with Lyra on NXT, and she's like, the next time I see you, I want to. Everybody is looking to her and going, boom. She is evolving into, dare I say, something which we may have seen before, almost like that China figure.
And
I can mix it with the men even on that good.
Yeah. And you know what they're doing as well, because she's rarely defending the belt. That want for her and that lust to have her there and stuff like that is growing and growing and growing all the time. I mean, when she hit the North American one there with the briefcase and stuff like that, and Dom picked up the win and stuff, was just phenomenal. And when you think about it, all the Judgment Day were there. She was the one that acted out what was important. She is such the leader of the Judgment Day.
She's the star.
And when you look at the 4 guys in that's a big deal. That's a big deal that she's that guy. She's that guy, let's say, if you like.
And I mean, there's two huge options here, right? The 2 huge options are if Rhea can cost Seth Rollins the belt, this then projects her and Becky, where Becky comes to her man's aid, and we get Seth and Becky versus Balor and Rhea. That can happen. And it can push, or we get the opposite, where if Balor doesn't get over the line against Rollins, maybe Rhea puts the boot into Balor and says, you're weak, you're letting down the side, I've got a belt, Priest got the briefcase, Dom's got the belt, you're letting us down, you're the weak link here. They throw him out, and maybe it ends up being Rollins and Becky who comes to the aid, and we see a 6-man.
Yeah, let's see what happens. It's going to be really, really interesting. But it's coming at us, not this weekend, next weekend. We said we'd do our preview early because the card is pretty much done at this stage.
Sure is.
I don't think we're going to get too much more surprises. Really enjoyed the show, my friend. Another good one.
Absolutely.
Love doing these previews. They're so dynamic. Big thank you to everyone in the chat. Also, a big thank you to everyone who's subscribing to the channel. We're less than 40 subs away now from the 1K mark. It's been quite the journey. We're almost there. So please sub to the channel, share the content, like the video, hit the bell notification, and we will talk again real soon. Cheers, pal.
Over now, Captain.